Hello everyone, my name is Muhammad Afizi bin Ibrahim. So today our group will present about the one country that we have choose, which is Mexico. In this slide presentations, we're gonna present about several things, especially in terms of the overview for the economics, the GDPs, the industrial relations, and so on. So firstly, we're going to the introduction. Firstly is the background of the Mexico. Mexico is officially the United Mexican State that stands as a federal republic positions in the southern region of North America. Mexico is the country that rich of history and cultural heritage, that the country is constituted by 31 states and one federal district. Mexico is also the country that is one of the 6 independent cradles of a civilizations, with early traces of humankind being somewhat close to the 10,000 years before present. In terms of economic landscape, Mexico is a country that operates as a developing mixed market economy and is recognized as a significant global player. In Mexico, they have several of the economic activities, or we call it the main economic activities in this country, which is the first one is they have the petroleum, second one electronic, food and beverages, clothing, chemical, and the mining. And then we go to the population. The population we look into 3 years, which is start from 2023, they have a 130.6 million, 2024 131.7 million, and 2025 is the recent data 131.9 million. And then we have the population by religions that have a few of religions like Catholic, Protestants, other religions like Judaism. They also have Sinaitic indigenous religions and so on. So this data we look in terms of it start from the 2022 and above. And then we go to the GDP performance. In 2024, Mexico's economy grew by 1.24%, its weakest growth since the year when it experienced contractions due to the pandemic, which is a COVID-19. And here we can see the GDP per capita in 2024 is about 13,972. And here we can also see the GDP growth projections in terms of comparisons from the different country. And here we can see the emerging market of the developing economies. The Mexico in the position or ranking number 5 below to the China, India, Russia, and Brazil.
Next, I'll be presenting on the industrial relations system and trade unions in Mexico. Let's begin with the roles trade unions play in Mexico. The first one is collective bargaining and wage negotiation. Trade unions are actively involved in negotiating wages, working conditions, and employee benefits. Their efforts have been especially impactful in reducing wage inequality, particularly during the 1980s. The second one is political influence. Historically, Mexican trade unions have been closely linked with political organizations, especially the Institutional Revolutionary Party. This relationship has allowed them to influence national labor policies and legislation. The third one is worker representation and advocacy. Unions serve as representative for workers in dispute with employers. They advocate for workers' rights, improve workplace safety, and broader labor reforms to enhance working conditions. The fourth one is participation in tripartite agreements. Trade unions collaborate with businesses and the government to shape labor laws. They engage in social dialogue aimed at improving social safety nets and labor standards. Now, let's look at the impacts these roles have had on Mexico. The first one is economic equity. By reducing wage inequality, trade unions have contributed to a more balanced economic structure, especially benefiting lower-income workers. The second one is political shaping. Their ties with political parties have enabled them to play a significant role in shaping national labor policy. The third one is labor rights advancement. Advocacy by trade unions has led to a stronger labor protections and better workplace conditions across the country. The last impact is social stability. Through tripartite agreements, unions foster cooperation among key stakeholders, promoting social peace and improved workplace practices. Trade unions in Mexico also have been influenced by international agreements, especially the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement (USMCA). The first influence is labor rights boost. First, the USMCA requires Mexico to protect union rights to ensure fair bargaining. This means workers have the freedom to organize, join unions, and negotiate collectively without interference and retaliation. The second influence is 2019 reforms. In response to USMCA obligations, Mexico passed major labor reforms in 2019. These reforms were designed to support union democracy, giving workers more control over their representation and contracts. The third influence is free union election. One of the most important changes is in the introduction of free and secret union elections. Workers now vote in private to choose their union leaders and approve contracts. This ensures transparency and reduces the risk of coercion or manipulation. The fourth influence is new labor codes. Previously, labor disputes were handled by administrative boards that lack independence. Now, new independent labor courts have been established to ensure fair and impartial resolution of disputes. The fifth influence is Labor Center created. A new federal labor center has also been created. This center oversees union registration and ensures that contracts are transparent and legitimate. It plays a key role in monitoring compliance with the new laws. The sixth one is stronger worker voice. These reforms have given workers a stronger voice in the workplace. Unions are now better equipped to represent workers' interests and advocate for fair treatment and better conditions. The seventh influence is end of corporatism. These reforms also mark the end of corporatism, a system where unions were often controlled by employers or political interests. Now unions are more independent and worker-driven. The last one is an international oversight. Finally, the USMCA includes mechanism for international oversight. If labor rights are violated, complaints can be filed and investigated, ensuring accountability and compliance with the agreement.
So now I will be talking about the employment in Mexico, especially the situation of the foreign workers. So Mexico has a huge labor force, around 61.5 million people. But the thing is, only 65% of them are work informally. That means no proper contracts, no job security, and no access to healthcare or social protections. If anything happens, like they are getting injured or fired, they basically have no support. Thus, foreign workers only make up to 1.2 million people, and it is about 9% of the workforce. Most of them work in agriculture, constructions, and domestic work. One of the biggest issues is the employer control visa system. They can only work legally if they stay with the same employer. So, if they try to inquire or complain, they could lose their visa. That's why a lot of them stay silent even if they are being underpaid or treated badly. It's even worse for the domestic workers, where around 97% of them are still informal, and most of them are women from the indigenous or the Afro-descendant communities. So they are not only exploited at work, but also face a social discrimination. So what can be done? Firstly, they can formalize a domestic work based on the ILO Convention 189, where they will do a proper contracts, fair wages, fixed hours of working, and some benefit. Also, allow union access for all the workers, including the undocumented migrants, so that they can stand up for their rights.
The minimum wages for general region in Mexico are 278.80 cents Mexican pesos per day, while 419.88 cents Mexican pesos per day in northern border-free zone. The standard work week for workers in Mexico is 48 hours. If the employer is guilty for wages violation, they can be fined of 250 to 5,000 times the UMA, an economic indicator used to determine the number of legal obligations. If the workers are indigenous or Afro-Mexican, the fines can be 7,000 to 70,000 times the UMA, and the imprisonment could be 4 to 12 years. Workers in Mexico are entitled to annual leave, sick leave, and parental leave. Unjustified termination entitled to 3 months integrated salary, 20-day salary per year of service, and payment for accrued vacation, premium, and aguinaldo, a Christmas bonus in Mexico. In Mexico, 40% of the workforce are women, and 24.2 million are in paid job. Women's workers in Mexico are being protected through maternity leave, breastfeeding break, being protected from dismissal due to pregnant and maternity leave, and the right to return to same job with full benefits after the leave. On average, women earn 6,360 Mexican pesos per month, while men earn 9,762 Mexican pesos. Another data also shows that women in Mexico earn 15% less than men. Next is the child labor. The minimum legal age to work in Mexico is 15 years old. Data shows that 1.1 million children did not go to school, 2 million children are in hazardous occupation, and 1.1 million are in mining, construction, chemical, and agricultural sectors. Article 22, Article 175, Articles 23 and Article 176 of Ley Federal de Trabajo are designed to protect the young labor. The standard retirement age in Mexico is 65 years old. All the workers in Mexico must register to IMSS, as the institution provides health insurance, disability and retirement pensions, work-related injury compensation, and nurseries and social benefits for workers' families. Employers must register workers with IMSS and contribute 24% to 38% of salary to Social Security payroll, while employees contribute 1.125% of salary to retirement and old age insurance. For the foreign workers, Mexico mandates that at least 90% of a company's workforce must be Mexican nationals, with the remaining 10% allowed for foreign workers. To work in Mexico, foreign workers must obtain a temporary resident visa with work permissions. Employers must get approval from National Institute of Immigration before hiring. Foreign workers must register with IMSS for the access to Social Security benefits.
So there are three types of government agencies in Mexico. The first one is called as STPS, which is known as Ministry of Labor and Social Security, which is responsible for workers' rights. And the next one is IMSS, which is called as Mexican Social Security Institute, which is responsible for workers' social security and healthcare, including foreign workers. And the last one is called as INM, the National Institute of Migrations, which is responsible for workers, migrations, and foreign labor policies. And we move on to the taxes and levies, where employers pay up to 7.53% to 7.58%. And employees pay up to 1.65% of their salaries to IMSS. And the next one is for work permit or visa, which is have three types. The first one is temporary resident visa with work permits, which is valid 1 to 4 years and can lead to permanent residency. And the second one is permanent resident visa for a long-term stay and full work rights. And the last one is for short-term visa for paid work, which is up to 180 days and must be approved by IMF. In summary, both Malaysia and Mexican enforce employment contracts, minimum wage, leave entitlements, and social protections for both of their local and foreign workers. They also support unions and provide structured labor laws. However, the differences between these two countries is that Mexico is more transparent and worker-focused systems, while Malaysia is having a solid framework, but they still face challenges such as bureaucratic, weaker union influence, and other persistent issues related to the foreign worker. And despite these differences, both of them facing the same issues, which is they are failed to attract younger generations and gig workers to involve in union. Thank you.